Matchmaker Michelle is a beautiful and rather emotional episode of Full House. This is the second episode of the fifth season. It's directed by Zwick, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And we have one main part of the narrative and two subplots, and I will go through them in turn. The subplot that takes up the least amount of time, but I have to say I rather love, is DJ's homework assignment. She has to write a paper about what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes, to live somebody else's life. So for 2 days, she's swapping with Kimmy. She's staying at the Gibblers, and Kimmy is staying with the Tanners. And what we got was really fun. I would have liked a little bit more with that. My personal preference would have been to just take away the story with Jessie and do more with Kimmy, but we do get a beautiful moment with Jessie, so I'll talk about that in a second. But I did enjoy that, and I think they could have done a little bit more, could have been a little bit funnier, but it was still tremendous fun. Jessie is having difficulty finding a record company who will take on Jessie and the Rippers. Apparently they have quite a soft image, so Becky suggests that Jessie works with Joey to come up with a better image or a more suitable image for what the record companies are looking for. And they do, and Joey suggests he becomes a vulture. And the next thing we know, Jessie is flying around the club dressed as this dark, menacing vulture thing, and it doesn't go according to plan. And Jessie realises, and this is why I think, fair enough, I would have liked more with Kimmy, but to get to this message, it was pretty great. He realises that he's going to find a record company who wants him for him. And I think that that's a really important message, particularly if you are an artist of any kind. There's doing what's true to you and doing what the people who can give you sales will do, whether you're trying to sell a book or artwork. It is a battle between doing what you want and doing what the publisher or anybody else thinks will sell. And I like the fact that Jessie's saying, no, he's going to do it his way. I think that's the best, because if he took on an image that he didn't feel comfortable with, there's not really going to be any sustainability there. So I appreciate that message quite a lot. The main narrative is definitely funny, but very emotional, and this focuses on Michelle. Teddy comes over to play, and they decide to play a house. And Teddy's going to be the daddy, and Michelle is going to be Uncle Jesse. And Teddy says she should be the mummy, but Michelle says she doesn't know how to be a mummy because she doesn't have one. And she decides she's going to get one, so she asks Becky how she can get a new mummy, and Becky tells her very briefly about falling in love and how she had a romantic dinner with Jesse, and that's how she ended up falling in love. So Michelle decides to set Danny up with her class teacher. This is Miss Wiltrout, played by June Lockhart, and Danny comes to collect Michelle, and she asks if her teacher can come to dinner, and Danny says yes if she wants to, and she does, and she comes over, and Michelle has some really great lines in this, and she tells Danny to not talk about himself, which I thought was very, very wise for a young child to pick up on, that Danny might talk about himself a bit. And they sit down and have dinner. Michelle has prepared the dinner of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and 1 glass of milk. 1 glass of milk with 2 straws, and then Michelle puts on some music from her little boombox and leaves the room. And before Danny and Miss Wiltrout really get a chance to talk properly, Michelle pops her head around the door and says, "Are you in love yet?" Danny nearly chokes, which doesn't surprise me because he was not expecting that. And Danny explains to her that they're just friends, they're not going to fall in love. And Michelle broke my heart at that point because she said that she's never going to get a new mommy, and goes up to her bedroom. And Danny goes up to talk to her, and it's beautifully written, beautifully delivered lines, so moving, and it is emotional, but it's also beautiful because he tells Michelle that some people just have a mummy and no daddy, and some people live with grandparents. People like Michelle live with their uncles, and not only is every family different, but she has so many people who love and care for her. She's got her father, her sisters, her Uncle Jesse, and her de facto Uncle Joey. And Michelle says, I bet nobody at school has a Joey. And she realises then that she may not have a conventional mother-father family, but what she has is pretty great. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It was beautifully done, and I think a great message for anybody, definitely for young children. when they may not realise that their family unit is not quote unquote typical until they go to school, and then they start realising, well, actually, that child has only one parent, that child has two fathers, that child lives with their grandparents. And it's a really great message. But I think anybody who grew up with maybe only one parent, or again, in a non-conventional family, it's nice to be reminded that that's okay. There's not really such a thing as a typical family. Yes, media typically portrays mother, father, however many children, but in reality, so many people have so many different stories, and I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. It's beautifully done, and I rather enjoyed it, and it was a beautiful way to address this topic, because obviously with Michelle getting older, she has no memories of her mother, so she's not going to know what it was like to have a mother around, and it was about time that she was questioning this. I feel like this is the right age for her to be wondering, and I think Danny handled it brilliantly. And Miss Wiltrout is pretty great as well. So, actually, having said that, I do think they seem like they'd make a good couple. Valuing education and learning, and Danny seems to really, obviously, when he's raising his children, he puts a lot of emphasis on their education, and they both like things to be very, very clean and organised. So, actually, it could, in theory, be a perfect match. Michelle had the right idea. But I rather enjoyed this a lot. Funny, beautiful, moving, emotional, very, very well done. Matchmaker Michelle is a really brilliant episode of Full House.